Hey and welcome to today's video. My name is Julian. On this channel, it's all about making you crypto fit. That means we discuss all the beautiful things around blockchain, cryptocurrencies, normally a lot of Bitcoin, but today we kind of talk about altcoins and how to evaluate them. How to put a value on these weird little things that it's very easy to price them because we just go to coinmarketcap.com and we know exactly what they're worth, what their price is, but it's difficult to know what they are worth. And so today, I have my tablet here, I have a lot of thoughts and ideas and a lot of algorithms. I want to give you my 5 things how to evaluate these altcoins. Rich is here from Munich. Hey, welcome. We're gonna do German afterwards, so right now it's English, just for your heads up. And yeah, so that's gonna be very, very interesting. And then obviously I would love to hear your thoughts. Might be interesting for you to drop me also something in the comments or in the chat. How do you evaluate altcoins? What do you look out for? And I'm gonna give you my factors. And we're gonna talk about 3 examples at the very end. So you wanna stay until the very end. I'm gonna give you 3 factors on, some examples and kind of look at those. Before we do this, however, I wanna thank the sponsor of this video. And the sponsor of this video is actually an app or a tool that I think is super, super, super valuable. You might have wondered, how does Julian read 52 books in, 52 weeks? And I actually read the entire books, but many, many times you kind of need to have an understanding what's a good book, what's not a good book. And you don't have time to read an entire book and then find out, hey, this book is actually not so good, or it doesn't interest me. And so there's an app that I use, which is called Blinkist. And with Blinkist, within 15 minutes, I can get an entire glimpse into the entire book. Now, obviously, it's not the same thing as reading the full copy, but it kind of draws out the highlights. It does this for thousands of books. They upload new books every month, and it's a tool that I use and I can highly recommend for you to use it. In fact, let me quickly show you how this kind of works, because I really feel this is such an interesting thing. So this is the app basically on my phone, or in this case, on my tablet. And here you have an entire overview. You can click here on the Explore button, and you can see all the different kind of non-fiction versions that interest you. You have this in English and in German. They update this regularly. And then here you have the library. Here is actually my top books that I felt in 2019 were some of the best books ever. Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell. You can, kind of speed read this within 50 minutes. On the right side, you can see the little audio button here, so you can download the audio. Bad Blood, great book, must read in my opinion. So you should definitely check this out. And what else do we have? Obviously, kind of a bit of a self-shill. My 2 books on there as well. The Time Horizon Principle. I can really recommend that to you. You should check this out. And Cryptocurrencies Explained Simply. It's on there. So here you can read it in super, super easy ways. And I just really, really love this. It's so easy, so simple. Check this out. We have a special promotion running where you get a 20% discount. You can go to blinkist.de/Julian Hosp. So that's blinkist.de/Julian Hosp. It's fantastic. I can really highly recommend this. Now, obviously, a Blinkist or a Blink never replaces the entire book, and I think that's not what it's designed for, but it's a really, really, really great introduction and gives you the key highlights. And there's a lot of books where you might not want to read the entire thing, but you really want to kind of get the gist out of it, and that's what it's really great for. So with this, let's dive into the video and let's see what's possible in the entire world around altcoins. And for this, let's take a look into the tablet and see how to kind of evaluate those altcoins. So let's do a screen share and let's dive in. So you should be seeing, let me just check that the screen share is working. Looks good, great. So what you should be seeing is, you should see the screen share here. And when we look at beginners, right? And let's just look at beginners. Beginners have very, very basic principles, right, in investing. And actually, the very first one is, if the price goes down, they are like, man, buy. And this is pure BS, right? This is pure bullshit. Price per se has nothing to do if something got cheaper or not, because this thing might still be super overpriced and you should never want to touch it. So that's going to be very relevant. We're going to look at what pros actually do. The second thing beginners do is they buy what's called hopium. So they constantly buy in a hope that the team does something. They hope that the coin develops into something. They hope that something is working out, right? So they have a status quo, but the status quo they don't like. So they actually hate the status quo. They're always complaining about the status quo. This is not good, that is not good, this. And they always buy something that's over here. So they buy some hopium, right? So there's a distance or a gap that has to be covered by the coin in order for something to actually work out, because the status quo is actually not acceptable. And so that's what beginners do. They love buying hopium. And that's very, very dangerous. And the last thing is they say, and that's a false thing, don't sell if you're minus. Right? So if you're in the reds, don't sell. Because it's super easy. Just always sell when you're in the blacks. Don't sell when you're in the reds. And this is what beginners typically do. So let's look at what the pros do. Right? The pros, and that's the key thing, have a very, very simple concept. You buy, and this is the very simple thing, when price is under value. That's it. So it might be actually that the price goes up, but maybe the value has gone up way more, and then, in my opinion, you should be buying because the price is lower than the value. New York production says, don't sell pay. I sold all my pay in March because I believe, and let's jump here. You sell, and that's the key thing, when the price is over the value. It's a very, very, very simple rule, very difficult for people to execute because they're so stuck when in this entire concept here. And now the last thing is, pros focus on value, on a current value, not on the hope in the future, but on current value right now. This is what pros do. And in Bitcoin, I think it's very, very easy to kind of do this. In Bitcoin, I've never met one person in Bitcoin who says, you know what, I buy Bitcoin because Lightning is going to be so awesome. Or I buy Bitcoin because privacy features are so awesome. Actually, it's the exact opposite. People buy Bitcoin despite all these things not being there, right? So that's the icing on the cake. And so that's the very, very key thing. So move from here, and this is really the very first thing, to here, right? Very, very, very important. You need to move from here to here. This is the very first step, right? And so the very first step here is value and understand value. But here's the key thing on value. Value is an art, okay? That's important. Value lies in the eyes of the beholder, which means it's completely individual. So it's very, very difficult. So no one knows value of anything, actually. We just come up with algorithms to understand what if something is worth and what it's not. So this is key. So this is very subjective. But the problem is most people actually never think about it, right? That's the very, very key thing. So an amateur doesn't even think about it. A pro understands that it's very, very difficult to do and it's an art, and the pro might be wrong, right? Price is super simple because it's just supply and demand, and you can just check it out on CoinMarketCap, right? So we're not gonna be discussing this, so we're gonna really focus on this here, and don't forget this is an art, right? Now, in my opinion, most coins today, most altcoins, and probably 99.9%, and there might be the one or the other exception, but it's probably irrelevant, most altcoins can be evaluated very similar to startups. Very similar. And so I'm going to give you some kind of concepts on how to value startups, because it's very, very similar. There's very few coins that don't have strong leadership, that are fully decentralized. Actually, most coins have a foundation, have a company behind them, has a CEO, has some leadership, has any kind of direction, right? So actually you can value those very, very similar to startups. And so the very first question you want to ask yourself, and this is the real question, what's the problem this coin tries to solve? What's the problem? And can you explain this to me, Eli? So explain it to me like I am, I don't know, 10. Or if it has to be a bit more complicated, do like 12 or 15. But. And answer like, man, you need to talk to the core developers to explain to me what this problem actually is. What? This problem has to be extremely simple to understand. Yeah, it might be on certain aspects that, well, it takes a little bit, but dude, this has to be super simple. If you think of the most successful companies out there, and at the end, don't tell me that your coin is different. It's not. There's Bitcoin, and for a very, very long time, there's nothing else that has such a decentralized status as Bitcoin. Everything else is centralized, right? Don't throw me your opinion. I really don't care about an opinion. To me, it's all about data and facts, right? So the first thing I need to understand is the problem. And that probably excludes already 99%, 95% of all coins, because I don't understand the problem these guys try to solve, right? That's the very first thing. I don't understand it. And so that's the key thing. The next one is a very straightforward one. And I look at the solution and I look at competitors. And now here's the thing. I'm not worried if there's competitors. I really have zero problem, nothing. But I have a problem if these competitors are doing it actually way better, way faster, if they are way larger, then I have a problem. If I don't understand how the solution can be better that this company tries to do, and at the end, don't forget, if you try to use a blockchain, you need to explain to me why do you actually need to solve a problem for censorship resistance, for example. Everything else makes very little sense. Yeah, I understand some companies try to solve for decentralization to scale, but so far we have not seen one step that decentralization actually allows you to scale with all the other evidence. So be very, very careful in understanding this. So this is the key thing. And now let's say you look at this and you're like, man, the other solutions, there are really some downsides, and it really makes sense what this company is doing. Cool, I like the problem, the solution. Now let's look at the third one, and that's TAM, and that's total addressable market, right? Total addressable market. Hey, Ewald, can you tell in the German group that I'm gonna be probably 10 minutes late? Total addressable market. And so you kind of look at this and you kind of evaluate that, right? And you try your best. And again, this is all in art. This is very, very difficult to put into facts and numbers. Yes, you have to kind of come out with numbers, but at the end, it's very subjective. And that's the idea. Value lies in the eyes of the beholder. It has nothing to do with any common sense. There is no common sense. You know, there's no common sense that gold should be worth more than $1. There shouldn't be, there's no common sense in this, right? Water can have a total different value depending where you are. The value of a liter of water in the desert, dude, is completely different than next to, I don't know, where I grew up in Austria, where it's like literally everywhere. And there was a time when water was actually given away for free. You could use your water at home for free, right? Just think about this. So the value, completely subjective. So don't get drawn into this where someone says, oh, the value is for sure this. Pros know this is impossible to do, right? So key thing. And now the last thing, the fourth thing, I have 5 steps. And the fourth thing is, I want to understand where are they on this trajectory, right? Trajectory. So I want to understand things like users. I want to understand things like growth. I want to understand things like what stage are they in. Obviously, it could be that they're just in an idea. It could be that they have execution and they have 10,000 users, but they have had that for the last 2 years and they're not growing one little bit, right? Now, obviously, you ideally would love something that's above idea stage, that has already an MVP out there, minimal viable prototype of product, that has some execution. Obviously, ideally, you want 15% week over week growth with like hundreds of thousands, millions of users. But obviously, that's not possible. But you need to have some trajectory. And at the end, this is such a key thing, right? And trust me, this is where to me a lot of things fail already. And the last thing is, and that's the final thing, it's a percentage to kind of get to their vision. They're not at their vision, otherwise it would be uninteresting to invest. But you need to have an understanding of their percentage. And if you kind of put all these 5 things together, you can actually start valuing, and that's literally what I do. I value these altcoins because to me they are like startups. I value them very similar, as if they were just a traditional startup, not blockchain. Forget blockchain. I mean, most of these blockchain companies, sure, but they are a company, and blockchain is just a hype word. Just like how in the past, people added .com at the end, and they were worth 10 times more than the underlying company. And I think in the last 2 years, this is exactly what happened as well. People just added blockchain, but it's irrelevant. It's still a startup, right? It's still a startup. And so let's kind of use 3 examples, right? And you could do this for any other coin, but let's do this for any kind of example. And so, yeah, let's try doing this for Augur. So the ticker symbol is REP. Let's do this for Binance token, BNB. And let's do this for MakerDAO. And that's MKR. Okay, so let's do problem, solution. So we have these things here, TAM, we have trajectory, and we have percentage. All right, so let's just try this out and see where are we getting it. And we can just evaluate that, right? And we can just evaluate, very, very simple. Okay, so Augur, what's the problem they're trying to solve? They're trying to solve censorship-resistant betting, any kind of gaming, and decentralized insurance. So I completely understand that, right? Very, very simple for me to understand. Binance, the problem, I'm not 100% sure I understand the problem the Binance token solves, because I mean, I really don't, at the end, it should be a security token, to be fair, right? So we could use, to me, let's make a wave. I do understand that what the token does, but at the end, what's the problem it solves? To me, the problem it solved was fundraising, probably like 99.9% of all tokens. But let's put it a bit into a wave, might be worse, might be better. I don't think there's the same reason for BNB to exist as, for example, for Augur, right? Kind of the same thing. And Maker as basically as a DAO, as a voting token, as a decentralized kind of governance token. I think it's a bit stronger than the Binance problem, right? That the token solves. So let's just leave it at this. Solution. I'm not 100% sure that Augur, the way the betting system is working and how all this is set up and that this has to be decentralized, I'm not entirely sold that this is like a great solution and that centralized solutions couldn't do it better, right? So I'm gonna give it a wave. That's just me personally. Now, if we talk at Binance, and let's treat it more like a security token. So that's just me as a security token. I'm just not gonna look much as utility token. To me, that's a pure bet on BNB, right? On Binance and how good CC is. To me, I totally get it, and I think even though the problem is not a good one, it's very straightforward what it does. So I'm gonna give it a check. And well, to me, if I look at, I don't know, let's look at Maker. Well, yeah, it's fine. I understand it. So let's put this here. So let's look at total addressable market in the entire thing. Now, if I look at betting, right, Augur, if there was a real strong use case, I mean, this thing could be massive because it could be insurance, it could be so many things. I totally get this. To me, Binance actually doesn't have so much of a total addressable market. To me, actually, here it's quite small because at the end it's a company token, and I'm not sure. And everything else is hopium. Are they getting over to a decentralized ecosystem, right? So let's see. Actually, as a DeFi token maker, it's very, very difficult to calculate the total addressable market. Of course, you're talking about decentralized finance, and this is a huge ecosystem. The question is just how big could this be? To me, probably smaller than the entire betting market, right? The entire betting system, but probably larger than Binance. So let's give it three pluses, right? And again, this is very, very subjective. Now, obviously, don't forget, I'm really struggling a bit with the solution here of Augur, right? And it's going to get very, very interesting. Because when we talk about trajectory, right? And this is now where it gets really, really, really interesting. So you can look at the numbers here. Augur has around 60 daily users. 60. And it's been pretty stagnant all over, all the time, right? Constant. I don't think there has been much movement here. BNB, Binance, right? So here, again, I treat this way more as a security token, not so much of a utility token. So that's kind of very, very important in the entire thing, right? So don't kind of get tricked. But here you have, in my opinion, millions. And to me, this is constantly growing. Probably, honestly, The strongest use case in the entire thing here is probably Maker. It doesn't have that many users right now because to me it's way smaller, but I think it's growing the largest. So this one has the strongest growth out of all of them, right? DeFi as a whole, DEXs, decentralized exchanges, not so strong of a use case. And so let's talk about the vision, where they want to get to. And seriously, I really don't see the vision that Augur has that they're going to get there. I don't. I personally just don't see it. Now, I might be completely wrong, and that's again why it's art and not a science, but that's just me, right? So I have no clue, so I'll give it a minus there. Binance, will they ever get to their massive vision? I'm not sure, right? So I'm gonna give this more of a flavor, or like a little wave here, because to me, I'm not sure how much further they go, or if the token is more, well, it's the security token, it just grows linearly, right? Again, that's me. And I might be completely wrong there. Now, personally, I probably give the DeFi system here the biggest kind of plus here, simply because I believe DeFi can be the strongest one. And I think it's gonna have the easiest way to get to its vision. I think it's on a traction. I think they're doing a lot of things right. And so when I just look at those things, right? So let's try to value those, right? So let's look at a company that solves a problem, has an okay solution. There's other really, really good ones. The market potential would be huge, but it has 60 users. And it's very unlikely they will ever get there, right? That's just me. So the question is, how much would you pay for that if it wasn't a blockchain company? So if you weren't brainwashed by the term blockchain, if this was just a regular company, they would come to you and say, hey, listen, guys, we've been on the market for 3 years. We have 60 users right now. Yeah, the market potential is huge. Right now, no one wants to use us. It's very easy to understand what they do. It's not clear that they get to where they actually would love to be. How much would you pay for them? I don't know. Personally, I don't know, maybe 5 million, maybe $5 million. That might even be a stretch, right? So that's how I would value them. And again, I might be completely wrong. Who knows, right? I'm just saying. And so at the moment, the price is, and I wrote it down, around 100 million. Right? Very simple. So to me, that's a sell. And I'm completely open in discussing. I mean, the price is non-discussable because it's there. That's what people are willing to pay right now. To me, it's all about value. And bring me a different system, bring me an algo, bring me something that I can easily understand, similar like this. And I rarely get this, right? So when I get discussions like this on YouTube, or on Twitter or anywhere, people just throw shit because they are invested in this project. They got zero arguments, so they just throw shit, right? They just want to argue without having any kind of, I don't care about your opinion, to be honest. I want to understand here the algorithm. If you give me some really good ideas, or give me those explanations. Give me an explanation why Augur doesn't get much users. Why is there only 60 users? I think that's a very important one. And then obviously, let's say BNB. Current price, right? I wrote this down. Where's BNB? Around 2 billion right now. That's what people pay. And to be honest, looking at this, I mean, a couple millions of users, very dominant in the entire ecosystem. I don't think it's going to grow exponentially. Probably fair value. Probably fair. Probably. Could be a buy, could be a sell, could be a hold. Honestly, I think fair. I think that's absolutely fine where it is right now. I wouldn't have much to say. I would give it a hold, to be honest. Looking at all this. Okay, let's look at Maker. Maker's price at the moment, around 600 million. And, well, to me, if a startup would come with this, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in the ecosystem kind of using this, massive growth, called the dominant player right now, the use case at the moment on the Ethereum chain. Pretty much the entire Ethereum ecosystem hangs on Maker at the moment. I'm not kidding. If Maker would die, Ethereum would die. I promise you. I think this is undervalued. I really think so. Right? So I think this is a buy. Probably fair value. We could discuss this. Maybe it's a unicorn, so maybe it's $1 billion. Right? Now, of course, we could discuss, but these are just my discussions, and I'm using 3 coins that I feel comfortable discussing. So here, Chainlink. the question, I really don't care about the partner. They can have 60,000 partners. I couldn't care less. To me, this is an irrelevant answer. Like, really, I don't care. This is the key. What problem are they solving? Is there an actual need for this problem to be solved here? How strong is their addressable market? What's the trajectory right now? How many users do they have? And then remove the term blockchain. How would any normal VC out there, how much would they pay for it? And if you're interested, then just look at other VC investments. Go on AngelList, go anywhere, and just check it out. And think about this, and then understand. And I'm not sure what the market cap right now of Chainlink is. I really don't know. Chainlink might be undervalued, might be at fair value, might be at overvalue. I think that would be an interesting one in all this. So, yeah. With this, I hope that kind of gives you an idea on how I approach valuations of coins. Trying to be as neutral as possible when it comes to that. Yeah, and you need to come up with your own algorithms, so that would be very interesting. So with this, I hope you're getting some value out of this. Let me know if you do, as a podcast, on YouTube, on Facebook, on wherever, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching. Give me a thumbs up, and then I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next video. Thank you so much. Yours truly, Julian.